Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com, shop there today, and make yourself look good.
Welcome, everybody, to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show. I am your host, Mr. Rob G, and we're going to have a fantastic show tonight. For hours 1 and 2, we'll be joined by author, researcher, astrologer, none other than Laura Eisenhower. And in hour 3, maybe part of hour 2, we'll get Drew Banky to join in on the conversation. And also, of course, in hour 3 with the wrap-up, plus Steve Stockton, weird UFO news, and a lot more. You definitely want to stay tuned for the show. It is going to be awesome and action-packed. And let me go ahead and take a look at who has the medal positions for the night. So, according to Race Fan, courtesy of Race Fan, looks like we got Race Fan with the gold. We got Kitty Catty Whack with the silver tonight, and then we have Marco with the bronze. Marco seems like a new name. If you are, we definitely appreciate you. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio. The chat is awesome. I think you're going to have a great time chatting with our chat members here, our chat family. So Drew Banky is in the back talking about, let's go. That's what I'm talking about. We got welcome to the show. Kitty Catty Whack again. Matt Carter, JSCO77. Mel WD40 getting us lubed up. We got Brown Dwarf. We have Road Flare. We got Jessica S. Where is she at? Right here. Jessica S. is here. All right. We got Helion Beast, Super Crazy Movie Geek. Mothman is here. Resonant. Miss Captain Jones, Christine Lynn. Let's see. I saw Amanda Carroll. There she is, Amanda Carroll. And we are not going to be able to get to everybody. I'll finish up on a break here as we get ready to start the podcast side of this. And then the radio side, because this is the After Hours radio show. And it is a fantastic Sunday. We're going to have a great day, a great evening, a great time, and a great conversation. Love to hear what's on Laura's mind. And I know a lot of you have come to hear the same. So, yeah, here we go. Start the podcast side. All right. For our podcast listeners out there in Spreaker, This is Mr. Rob G. This is the After Hours Radio Show, and our guest Laura Eisenhower will be joining us tonight for hours 1 and 2. Hour 3 will be Drew Banky. As we go ahead and get ready for the radio show, here we go. Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. You just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I'm your host, Mr. Rob G. And tonight, we're broadcasting to you and our listeners on our terrestrial affiliates across North America and digitally all around the world. Remember, you can access our archives for absolutely free at youtube.com/spaced out radio. And while you're there, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to follow us on X and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio and at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with the SOR Newswire, get yourself some official Spaced Out swag, plus rock out to the guy you hear right there, Mr. Bumblefoot, and oh so much more. Once again, it's going to be a fantastic show as we have Laura Eisenhower. She's a researcher, author, and astrologer. She is an internationally acclaimed speaker who has presented her work worldwide. Laura is the great-granddaughter of President Dwight David Eisenhower, and she reveals exopolitical information about his administration that has largely been held in secrecy. She is considered by many to be one of North America's leading researchers and experts on health, exopolitics, alchemy, metaphysics, astrology, and galactic history. And we are not going to waste any time at all. We are definitely going to jump right on in and bring our guest for the night, Miss Laura Eisenhower. Hello, Laura. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, Mr. Rob G.
Hey, it is totally great to meet you for the first time here. I see you all over the place. You know, you definitely are everywhere when it comes to talking about the subject. So I'm just so blessed that you decided to join us here tonight. And thanks to Drew Banky for making that connection, man. I really do appreciate Drew. He knows that. But with that being said, Laura, I know you've heard all this stuff before, right? I would like to know, I mean, obviously, as it said in the intro there, you're the great-granddaughter of Dwight Eisenhower, President Dwight Eisenhower. But I would like to know, because when you first got into this, obviously was later down the line, when you were a kid, I'm sure you were aware that your great-grandfather was former president. When did it really click to you and you become aware that he may have had these secret meetings with these aliens? And then at what point did you go ahead and jump into your part that you currently do within ufology?
I actually felt into his, I felt his presence before I knew he was famous. I just kept feeling this energy and just almost like I was being prepared. And I saw him in a military uniform. And then I was like panicking, and I was like, you know, almost like looking around and saw on bookshelves Eisenhower, right? And then I would go to family gatherings and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's famous. He was general of the Second World War, and then he was president. So it was really surreal. I felt like I was prepared, since childhood. If my camera goes in and out, I got really bad bandwidth, and I'm still here though. If audio at times is okay. So everything started really early for me, and he helped me, to understand, and at least, our part, me and him, our agreement, which I've come to find out a lot about in the recent years, that I was a guide in his administration warning about the Greys, but I can't prove that except for in my intuition and what remote viewers have said. but it made sense because when I came in, it like hit me real hard, and he was like there, like almost like helping to soften, not the blow because there was an agreement, but helping me to acclimate and integrate, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I know there's a period of time, you see the books everywhere, you realize, okay, wow, my great grandfather is famous. Then I'm sure it comes the knowledge that he was former president. So it's like, wow, everything is wow. But for you, when did you first initially experience the phenomena? And then I'm trying to see if that was prior to you gaining the knowledge that he may have also dealt with extraterrestrials and had made this agreement. That did you have anything before that knowledge came to you?
He was just like showing up. I didn't know the ET government, part. I felt like I was being nudged into that research. I was a very sort of out there person, but I felt like what I was being nudged into researching had a lot to do with first the false narratives, like Eisenhower signed treaties with the Greys. I was targeted to go off planet, so I was always measuring what was going on with that, with what might have happened in his administration. So between just trying to get to the bottom of things with that and what I was seeing on the internet and the synchronicities of the people that came into my life, I've been able to uncover a lot more than I expected. And just to, just say it right off the bat, he didn't sign treaties with the Greys. He set things up, positive military, with the help of Val Thor. There was an unconditional surrender agreement that took place. And I want to be careful what I say because of your channel. I've been silenced for saying some things in regards to this, but it was done behind his back. There was a surrender that took place that wasn't while he was president. And that's why he had to kind of work real hard at setting some things up to counteract that with the help of Val Thor from Venus.
Okay. And yeah, we've talked recently about Val Thor on this channel with Dave Scott. Okay, so what was your first experience with the phenomena? Did this happen once you got older, or did you have anything as a child?
The visitations with Eisenhower, I would say, started around 3. The research, I mean, I saw things starting from the age of 9 about Eisenhower and UFOs, like when I was standing in the grocery store line as a kid. The downloads and me diving deep, I was always like out of my body and like multidimensional and getting in touch with my mission. So I would say, yeah, like 8 or 9. And then when that article, and it was in the Weekly World News, which is a joke newspaper, I was like, okay, now I am starting to realize, like, because it's almost like he was like, yeah, like look more into this. But I'm like, it's a fake newspaper. But I'm like, oh, wait a minute. And then I felt this targeting, and I could see through a lot of the programmings, but I really started to see a much larger picture. And then it was like so much hidden started to come to light. But yeah, I would say the acknowledgement of his spirit was the age of 3. Understanding who he was in the world was pretty immediate after that, just because family gatherings, right? Books on the bookshelf. My mom didn't want to say too much, at such a young age to her kids. So it was, I had to sort of determine that I was living a double life. Like there was the family stuff. They weren't going to talk about any of this. So that part was like a double life. They're authors. They have always been close to him, and, as grandkids, like my mom and my uncle and my aunts. But the whole UFO ET thing was very quiet, and I could not talk about the targeting because it was invisible targeting. I didn't come to terms with that until I worked with energy healers and like psychics that helped me to understand.
Wow. Okay, that's awesome to know. And so it sounds like, you're one of the lucky ones that was born unlocked. And I think there's definitely a group of people that are already turned on at birth and tend to have these connections and be able to receive is what you call downloads. So what, when did you reconcile all this? How old were you? Were you an adult at the time? Like, when did you really sit down and start putting the pieces together?
The dot connecting got stronger after I was like 15, 16. I stopped going to school. I was like, I can't sit in class. Like, I have to figure out all this other stuff. It's not going to make sense to anybody. I'm going to look like I don't care about school, which I really didn't. But like, I literally just went in a completely different direction. I went into the wilderness. My background's wilderness expedition leadership. And that's when I really just was able to gain more clarity, like talking to Mother Earth, connecting with, my mission.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that I had like direct, like, oh, he's showing up in an apparition kind of form, but I was able to kind of get a grip on like a larger picture stuff, what I needed to prepare for, and finding like-minded people. And it wasn't until I got out of the Mars recruitment and refused to go in 2006 did I start to meet other whistleblowers and researchers. Up until then, it felt really, really lonely. I really couldn't talk to anybody. But when I did work with the energy healers and I went to the Psychic Institute, they at least helped me not feel like what I was sensing was insane. I almost was hoping it was, because I was like, no, this is too much, right?
Wow. So to go further into that, because you definitely kind of, started off with the bangs by saying, hey, the meeting did not happen in this way. So could you elaborate? Because everyone is under the impression that there was a meeting, it was Air Force Base, he disappeared for a night. And so that's the story that's being told across ufology. So could you go ahead and clarify that up then?
Yeah, well, he might have disappeared. There might have been an unknown connected to his whereabouts. He might not have gone to that dentist appointment. My family members, when I asked them, they said, no, he did, but that's what they were told, right? They don't look like they're purposely covering anything up. There's no evidence of any kind of weirdness in my family of, I don't know, hidden secrets, that you would see maybe in families that are connected to MK Ultra or My Labs or just like something that you would see in the family that would be like, whoa, 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 red flags. It was just a perfectly loving family. They just didn't want to talk about this kind of stuff. And when I brought it up, it was like, oh yeah, no, he went to the dentist appointment. And, but yeah, we hear these rumors, but we don't know, kind of thing. That was probably as much as I got out of them. And they just said, we have no reason to question whether or not he went to the dentist appointment. So I wasn't going to get anything from family, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so from what I've come to understand is MJ-12 signed it behind his back, but he might have been around those bases. In 1954, which is the year they said the Greada Treaty happened, was the same year that he actually invaded Dulce Underground military base to try and take out the Greys. So that kind of shows like, wow, we don't hear about that. So if you look at these projects that infiltrated, Project Paperclip, everything after 1947, the president, the position of the president after 1952 wasn't what it used to be. There were like 20 levels of top secret above him. So what I feel and what others have also agreed with is that they used him as a scapegoat. Because, I mean, how is a shadow government going to hide unless they blame a figure?
yeah.
And that's kind of the game that's being played.
Yeah. And so it's for my understanding here. So to be clear, so he did not have the meeting. However, it sounds like he at least had knowledge of their presence with the whole Dulce incident. Is that correct?
Yeah, he had knowledge. The unconditional surrender agreement under, I mean, I want to be careful. I said the year with, under Truman, that should be fine. I think you're on YouTube, but that was basically a surrender to the ICC, NAZI, DRACO alliance. That, so just that alone, just even being written out and what he witnessed and saw, with the Foo Fighters and just the Roswell crash, just there was just a lot that he was aware of. But the whole winning the Second World War, he also knew that we really hadn't. You know, Admiral Byrd tried to invade Antarctica. There was this flyover of UFOs over the capital, and that's supposedly when this unconditional surrender agreement took place. So yeah, he would have known quite a bit, but what he didn't know is what alarmed him. That's why he ordered, you know, these invasions once he realized that experimentation and abductions were actually taking place, right? So why else would he order an invasion? I wasn't there. I can only speculate, but he also tried to invade Area 51 later on. So the whole kind of ET government exchanges were out of his hands. And he was a part of helping to establish some things with the secret space programs, but he lost control. That's why he set up some of the positive branches, the USMC Special Section. Randy Kramer talks about it, the Mars Defense Force on Mars, to keep the MJ-12 boys in check, who had established colonization, which is connected to the alternative 3 scenario, which is what they were looking to recruit me into, to be a permanent colonist. So I almost feel like the agreement coming into this family was to be recruited so I could blow the lid off with so many others, right? So
yeah, I mean, looking at it being that you have a direct connection like that, and then for you to be so vocal as you are and researching and uncovering a lot of different facts, that's, to me, is more than coincidence. I feel like, but as a researcher, because obviously, I mean, the first thing that you hear is, okay, you're the great-granddaughter, right? So I'm sure you get that all day. But stepping back from that and just looking at it as a researcher, what do you think is going on? Do you think these aliens are actually reaching out to governments around the world?
I definitely feel that there's been an alliance with the darker ones, the more vampiric. When we look at the shadow government and the families, there's trafficking. There are people being recruited in my lab programs, talented and gifted programs. Mm-hmm. I mean, people are being like brought in. And when we look at world leaders and we hear about their family background and their agendas that are duping people into thinking that it's for the betterment of humanity, what is that all about, right? So I feel that some of these more nefarious deals have been in the works for thousands of years, but they really started to get more established in the 30s and also in the 40s under Roosevelt. But it wasn't Roosevelt. He actually didn't have as much to do with it, but 3 very prominent figures, and I'm kind of careful what I'm sharing here, Crowley and the leader of the Nazi party and Churchill had something to do with something. I
was going to ask you about that because obviously, on the surface, a lot of people think Roswell was the beginning of this. But we had David Grush come out recently and talk about the Italy crash in 1933. And then we know how potentially that could have been linked to the guy that you were just talking about there a moment ago. And so we see that it definitely goes back further than that. And the thing is that today, when we talk about presidents, everyone says, okay, they're just the face of the government. They are temporary employees, so they would never get that sort of information. What do you think is the difference between what was going on then and what's going on now as far as the president's stature and ability to be briefed on things like this?
Well, clearly Kennedy was briefed, and Eisenhower clearly spent a lot of time with Kennedy when there's a lot of evidence of them walking around golf courses together. You got to figure they're having some big time conversations. And then Kennedy's assassination. Well, look at what's happened to the office of presidency since then. You see attempts for more disclosure and then assassination attempts. that weren't successful. But the fact that there were even assassination attempts is definitely something to, dig further into. Who were these individuals? Like Reagan, what was he trying to share? And the ones that we see that people have been voting for, where has the political realm, where is the educational systems, where is the medical industries altered to a certain degree what is being shared through the news? Like where is it starting to be politicized? Where is there more divide and conquer? So this is the Project Mockingbird part of it, and the manipulation of humans through media and these different power structures that we're born into. And the war on consciousness is where the war has turned. And three-letter organizations basically have groomed a lot of individuals to play leadership roles in these times, while this shadow government has been really growing, and it's steering false narratives. They spent a lot of money to trip us up, even in the disclosure communities. So we have to really, and that's where I've been really, digging deep. When I came across that Greata Treaty thing, I'm like, oh, wow, okay, I need to talk about this. But then it's like, wow, okay, the whole concept of false narratives and plants and disinfo agents, I knew that existed, but I didn't know, for what story or where. I just could only have an open mind, right? So
if I'm hearing you correctly, is we got about 2 minutes left before we go to our first break. It sounds like that what you may be hinting towards is that anytime we see something like an assassination attempt on a president, that's likely not just a personal person's vendetta against a president. Likely this may be something more nefarious, as far as like these groups in the background, these secret shadow government type people. Are you hinting towards they may be the ones behind any and all assassination attempts?
Well, yes, but it doesn't mean, don't dig deep. There's so much theater, right? And I was just talking to Dr. Shiva. He talks a lot about, the WWE, the World Wrestling Federation, WWF, excuse me, and how, just the shock and the drama to hook people in is, what their tactic is. Does that mean that everything that we see is a setup or a facade? I don't think so, but I don't know. It's just the more investigation, the better. The more we step back and question things without running wild with whatever we might be hearing, whatever, on every level, whatever we're being thrown, it's that we find our intuition again, that we have discernment, because it's so easy to just be like, oh yeah, this must have happened, or it must be this, or it must be that. But what humans are beginning to lose is their capacity to have strong discernment, and be able to sort of form less attachments to what's coming at them, and a stronger foundation to be able to navigate from, if you know what I mean.
Definitely know what you mean, and that's a perfect ending to the first half of hour one, as we're getting into some real good conversation with Laura Eisenhower here, talking presidents, talking secret meetings that maybe did happen. We're going to talk about more. You guys don't go anywhere as we get ready to come back from this break. Stay there. Stay tuned. Okay, Laura. So we have a 5-minute break right now. YouTube can still see us and hear us at this point, and we'll be taking 2 more breaks. So basically every 25 minutes until the end of the interview. And yeah. So I know you get this stuff a lot, and then that's why I wanted to get through the the Dwight Eisenhower piece first, because I know you talk about that a lot. I know you're really into spirituality and all these other things, so we'll definitely be shifting into some of that here soon.
Okay, great. I'm here.
Okay. And also your book as well, because I know you just released a book. So we'll be sure to actually, yeah, we'll get into that in the next 30 minutes. So other than that, how has life been treating you? I know you're busy.
Oh, good. Yeah, we just had a family loss. So sorry, I'm not a little bit more camera ready. I'm working on it right now as we speak. But yeah, everything's pretty good. I mean, we're in September, right? So heading to England soon. What about you? What part of the world are you in?
I'm in Southern California, about an hour north of LA, so Bakersfield, California.
How have I not met you yet? How long have you been in the field of this sort of research?
I have been studying this since Elizondo came out in 1997 or 2017. And I got into the talk show side of this back in 2022. And it was because I had dived so deep into this and I wanted to talk about this and talk out these theories with family members, but they didn't want to hear it. They were like getting tired of hearing about these extraterrestrials being here. And then I said, okay, well, then I joined the show and found an outlet to be able to kind of talk this stuff through. So,
Oh my God.
yeah.
Well, right on for taking, the initiative and just going for it,
Yeah. I feel really good about it because I think I try to on this show have guests that help move the needle, right? So you are included in that, and I think when we sit down and hash this stuff through, by the end of the show, the needle has been moved, and so I know we're gonna get into some great stuff tonight. And looking in your history in your past, I mean, you've been dedicated for many years. I mean, I saw things with you 13 years ago where you are just as passionate now as you were then about the subjects that you speak about. So,
Yeah, I've been at it a while. Yeah, lots of censorship, loss of a lot of content, in archives. It's been a lot, but I'm still here. And always love doing shows and still traveling and putting out content and interviewing awesome people. So it's awesome. It's good.
Yeah. And I want to ask you, and I'll ask you after the break, but you said you're still here. And that is a beautiful thing. But like you said, there's certain things you can't say. So I know people have to be looking at you. You know what I mean? I know you have to be on the radar because of how passionately you speak about things. And so I'll ask you about that in a minute here.
Okay, great. I mean, I hope I haven't shared names and things that I shouldn't have shared.
No, you are totally wide open to share anything you'd like here. Yeah. That's what this is for. If it rubs some people the wrong way, it's not my concern. It's about getting the message out and moving the needle, right? So that's
worst case, we'll just get like a strike.
Yeah, we haven't. Well, I'm willing to take the risk on that. You know what I mean? If the conversation is progressive, and I think as long as we're not doing politics or religion stuff, or we're going real deep on that, I think we're okay.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, not saying anything about like the here now. I think a lot of what we're sharing is like it's so much in the roots. And I spelled things out, which are a little bit
awesome of you to do. Actually, I was like, oh, okay, yeah. I see why you did that. That made a lot of sense to do that. Yeah,
right.
Because they'll put those little things, those addendums on your video saying you spoke about this. This is the definition of that, and little Wikipedia link.
Right, and if you spell it out, it's like you and I will see how if they're really that clever. It's like, whoa, we really are dealing with some stuff.
All right, we're coming back right now. All right, everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. We're on the back half of hour one. being joined by our guest, the awesome Laura Eisenhower. And we're talking about stuff maybe people shouldn't talk about, but maybe people should talk about. We're just going to push the line tonight. All you guys out there, space travelers, consider doing the right thing. Take the next step and join the Space Travelers Club for as little as $5 a month. By joining our Patreon, we would appreciate that. So, yeah, Laura, so getting into this, we talked over the break, and, there were some things you were being careful of saying, and you made a statement saying that you're still here, which is a testament, and it's an awesome thing, very positive. I'm glad you're still here. But do you ever feel like you get targeted for delivering the message? Because I feel like, and I'll preface it by saying this: I have gone on rants where I have criticized, the government and society and the structure because of how it is suppressing human beings, and citizens, and essentially how we have to get to a point to where we challenge that authority and say, hey, let's sit at the table and try to work this out. But I feel like whenever anyone takes a stance like that, that's when those people on the other side of the conversation, meaning government and people in the background, that's when they start taking notice of who's talking and then potentially looking further into that person. Have you ever experienced that? Because I know you're very vocal and you talk about all these different things.
Oh yeah, I mean, I feel like all I'm used to is being, targeted. It changes forms, but it's also where we, gain strength. And I think the hardest part though is when it happens within like a community and people kind of fall for the smear campaigns and the tactics that are being used. You just can't take it personally. The loss of channels, trying to rebuild them, while smear campaigns are everywhere. And it's just like, oh, you feel like you're starting from square one. But yeah, I mean, they definitely don't want the information that I'm sharing to be out there, along with so many, people like you, putting information out there. My book took more than a decade to get out there. It was sabotaged so many times. I mean, it's nuts. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but
That definitely answered my question. And I've said, when I thought about that, I thought about that live on the air one day, and I just voiced that concern that, hey, they may be, someone said, oh, you may be on a list. And I'm like, I may not be, I'm not big enough at this point. I don't feel, however, I know this type of conversation will get on the radar. Anything that unites humanity and try and attempts to break the mold and the chains that we have on us as citizens, I think is the government can always spin that and make it look like you're being anti-government. And I always preface it by saying I am not anti-government, and I fully, love the country, and I say all those things, but things could be better. And if I if I get put on a list, I'm kind of willing to take that risk for the greater good of everybody else. So so that's why I'm rocking with you, and that's why I think it's going to be a great conversation. But I do want to get into real quick your book, because I think it kind of ties right into what we're saying here. It's Awakening the Truth Frequency. So if you wouldn't mind talking about the book, what was the thought process, and how does that tie into some of the stuff we've gone over so far?
well, I definitely feel it's about what is like your truth when you read it. Like, I want people to walk away feeling closer to themselves. I share a lot of information, and I don't want it to just be so heady, like too much to process. Um, just hoping that me sharing my journey and telling my story, and what I went through, and what it takes to just sort of honor your inner truth, your intuition, and what your maybe personal calling is, and it doesn't have to be the same as anybody else's. Yeah, like what that's all about, and why is this such a prophesized window period called ascension? So I made a point of researching this and really feeling into my soul agreements, or just like, what I know to be true, on top of understanding the astrology. So I studied astrology starting from my teenage years, also tarot and the I Ching. And what I discovered was like, wow, it's not just some fluffy concept. It's actually a very legit thing. And wow, our galactic history, the Lyran Wars, the Orion Wars, but with my focus and attention on the Sophionic energy and the mother, and the exploded planet of Tiamat, and how the Earth became what it is with this planetary grid network and how that got manipulated, I was like, whoa, right? So it's just a culmination of all this research, my own personal story, and things that took place in the 1950s in President Eisenhower's administration, and how our connection and this mission has come to light through my heart and intuition in my relationship with him, but also synchronicities with like books that have been handed to me, and individuals that have been a part of the things that we don't hear about, that have given me a ton of information that I just present in the book for people to discern. And it's just holding really a strong intention of awakening your truth frequency, though. You don't have to believe or just go for everything that I share, but take your time with it and see what ignites within you. I share things about all the research that I've done, not all of it that I necessarily resonate with, but I wanted to make sure to present it so that it's all out there for people to just, process without, putting the major focus on that in my book. I wanted, people to understand what is our junk DNA, what is the lost ancient and galactic history connected to our DNA. Why is it called junk? And one of the biggest, I think, revelations in the book for me, and what I, came to understand along the way, is, how the Venus transits and the ether element coincide with the sun moving through the 13th sign of Fiacus, and how this is really a time of the anchoring of the mother energy, and how that is helping us to dissolve frequency fences, toxicity, and break down the programmings and de-weaponize the weapons, to really wake up and be this override frequency, to recognize, all that we are in the face of all this, and not let it defeat us or victimize us, and that we're unlocking some really deep and hidden treasures that is encoded in us. And the more we're true to ourselves and in that truth frequency, the more we will really bring to the human realm. And then we can really come together in unity consciousness and, just work together to create healing centers, to, assist one another in recovering from what we've been through for thousands of years of very dark history and assaults and manipulations. It's very heart-based and just very understanding of the challenge of all that and navigating this craziness. And so, I just hope it's helpful to people.
Yeah, it's exactly what it sounds like. Definitely a tool to help, to help awaken the frequency, to enlightenment, to which is where we have to go. Because I really, and I've said this before, I really feel like the extraterrestrials don't want to deal with us until we can enlighten ourselves, like on a massive scale. I know they look at us and they're just like, this is ridiculous. Look at these guys. They're materialistic. They're fighting over power. Just all these different things. And I've done a show about what is the alien perception of humanity, and that kind of was the basis of it. Just how do they look at us in our current state? And we definitely are in need of some enlightening and some awakening of the truth frequency. But I'll tell you this as well. The government needs a copy of that book. We need to send a copy of your book to the Pentagon and the DOD so we can awaken their truth frequency. What do you think is, let's go back. So we know, as far as the original cover-up was Roswell, just the one that we know of.
Yeah, that there's been a lot of UFO crashes, right? There's been a lot, covered up as far as abduction scenarios in exchange for technology happening in the 30s and 40s even. Then in the 50s, this Greada Treaty, that's when it became sort of a date to look back on and blame, while there were already, individuals and families that had already experienced this. What's really interesting that you'll see in the book is a migration of advanced souls coming in the 1950s to offset a lot of this. But I think, when we talk about abductions, when we talk about contactees, they're not going to remember dates like, oh yeah, it was, after a certain thing was signed. No, there are numerous accounts. There's paintings in our ancient history of this phenomena. And when we look at the more benevolent ones, they're looking for us to awaken dormant, DNA, where we will find a commonality instead of them coming to save us. And I think this problem, reaction, solution game is very much coming from the dark side that we have to be very careful of. And that's why I love Eisenhower's final speech, because it really put the emphasis on being a knowledgeable and aware citizenry. That if we are going to, awaken to all this, and we're moving into a time of disclosure, we need to be knowledgeable and aware. We can't just take what comes at us. So when we're even thinking we should wait for government disclosure, we need to make sure we're prepared and we have a lot of research, a lot of understanding, a lot of access to experiencers, contactees, and the books that have been written, and really bust through this time of censorship so that these stories and this research does not get lost to us. And the more we can consolidate it and hold it and save it during the times where it might not be so easy to share is going to really, really help when it's coming through the news. It's coming through, whatever next wave, whatever. It's just, there's a lot of dangerous disclosures we have to be careful of. I just want to say that.
Yes. And so I think it was July 8th, 1947, when the Roswell crash happened, I think. But what I want to ask you is, okay, day it happens, crash this, we found the crash. The next day, oh, the weather balloon. What do you think the government knew in that moment, and currently, why are they continuing to keep the truth away from humanity? From your perspective, what do you think?
Well, it's the same thing with why are doctors and teachers a part of the indoctrination, a part of the fear campaigns that are still connected to how they can make money, where their fear is in like letting go of that. Same thing with the corporation. If you look at the ICC, Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate, when we're looking at the military industrial complex, we're talking about multi-level corporations and how that connects to off-planet space programs and trafficking and this vampiric inverted system that really wants us to be disempowered and be kind of like left to the dust. But if there are certain events taking place, that they're going to steer that narrative, they're going to control the way that we interpret it, even when it might be a legit thing. Is it really legit? And that's where the blue beam might come in, right? So they can make a weather balloon cover up a legit craft, but when it's a fake one, that's when they might say, "Oh yeah, they've arrived,"
Yeah. Do you think that, because there could be a couple ways to look at this, it could be looked at as, which is probably the most likely, that, okay, they don't want to let us know because they don't want us to figure out that the government structure as it stands is sort of insufficient in this new light of this new world that we would live in. And so because of that, they want to maintain power. They don't want to lose that. They don't want to give it up by any means. So you have that. And then you could also look at it as, okay, well, they found out something really disturbing about why they're here, and they are attempting to protect us from X, Y, or Z. Which one of those two things, or even if there's a third you could add, or the most likely reasons, to kind of keep it under wraps?
That could be like the buffering of the white hats, and also it's like where the showdown of forces, right? There could be that buffering of the white hats, and how things play out in the news, like what they might say we aren't ready for, even though that is an old saying we all don't like. Like, we're not ready to be duped anymore. We're not ready to fight any more wars, right? That's what humanity is not ready for. But when we see the facades, when we see the theater, it seems like there is a mixture of like the black hats, white hats, and like that gray area in between, which I think is what you're talking about. And I feel, if that's the sort of drip down disclosure, okay, well, who's controlling that? And I think that's where the showdown of forces are. What we aren't ready for is already out there. When we look at world leaders, when we look at influential people, I'm not talking about every single one of them, because there are ones we should definitely have an open mind to, but we want to take it upon ourselves to step into our leadership role, to, work on building better communities and pulling our resources together. But what humans might not be ready for, why, there's this sort of Q psyop that it ended up being, was the amount of crimes against humanity that are being exposed. And that a lot of these leaders and people in these influential positions, if you're starting to look at mind control and trauma-based, all that, we're not really, what is operating that? What is allowing that? That's when that much, much bigger picture conversation begins to happen. And it's a very difficult one to wrap one's head around. And then what they're doing to our children. It's like, I think everybody has a certain flow in their life of what they're ready for, what is going to come to their attention, and what they're going to decide to do with it when that happens. And we're not all at the same place. We're not all going to pick up on the same things that we see or that we research or that comes up, in the internet. And, do we hit block and move on to a story that seems a little bit more legit, or are we just going with what we hear? It's like, it's really about our spiritual development, our soul development, and getting to the truth. And that's why I call my book that. So I don't know if that was a great answer, but
that was an awesome answer. You're doing fantastic. I'm loving it. So I did pick up on something you said earlier when you were talking about some of these extraterrestrials. You said some benevolent. That must mean some malevolent. So I kind of want to see, what do you think is the overall reason why these things are here? I know there's supposedly different groups, different species of extraterrestrial. And, I'm in the belief that, there probably are some good ones, but then there likely are some ones that are here that don't have our best, intent, don't have the best intents. So with that being said, what is your outlook on this? What do you think is going on? Do you think we should hope for the best, prepare for the worst? What is your outlook on that?
Definitely hope for the best and prepare for the worst as far as what you might be depending on. Stop depending on it, right? I look at it like, I kind of redundantly say it's like a breakup. What we are getting constantly wants us to depend on the solution. And also what the next disaster is going to be. And we can't control some of that. A lot of it's engineered. A huge amount of it's engineered, including weather events. The best way we can prepare is to understand that we're elemental. We're just not here to sit back and be at the mercy of everything. We're here to work with our creative power, our creative imagination, and our ability to manifest. And they're only able to imitate and use trigger events and psyops and false flags to drop our vibration to a level that they can, steal and siphon. So this whole powers that be are really the powers that stole. That's our energy we need to call back and redirect. So that's the most important thing, is to have that discernment, to not give that power away, to recognize, we need to prepare for attack. But if we do it from a place of empowerment instead of fear, and we prepare from a place of, community and celebration of like, look what we can do together, versus, preparing, like in the way that movies do. Not to say, don't be prepared for, a zombie coming and knocking down your door, but is that really going to happen? I mean, I think the awakening humanity is dismantling the dark weaponry, and we're going to be able to help a lot of humans heal and overcome where their physicality is being massively compromised, because it really requires a lot of the mind control and a lot of the dependency bond for it to even work. So we can prepare and do our part and be a resource, but not to get so attached to saving everybody or being at the mercy of everything, but just be a resource and just hold unconditional love and understanding and forgiveness for yourself, for others. That's the best we can do. And I think a lot of souls that might be going down a negative trajectory will see the light to be able to come back, and not necessarily have to be red pill, but just know that there's something that they might have missed, and there's some kind of help that they might need, whether it's working with frequency, or individuals that have a lot of really great tools and modalities to begin to dismantle from all this. I feel there's nothing that we can't overcome and cure. So we want to drop all that and just do our best, and not, cast anybody, as a lost cause. It's just really important that we know that Mother Earth and we are encoded with knowing how to override all this and how to turn all this around and break all this down. So let's just hold that in our heart and notice that, a lot of what they were hoping for is not, going to manifest to the degree that they, were hoping. There will be casualties, but we're going to take the reins. We already are. And they're going to be exposed and they're going to starve, because we're not going to give them the attention that they want anymore. We're going to start to build together. And the most important thing is that we reach out as a resource. And also know that the trauma imprint, this is not just us being attacked. Sometimes a soul has to hit rock bottom and have a trauma to reflect upon, to not incarnate the next round and fall prey to the same kind of games that are being played by deceitful leaders. Like sometimes, that's what the soul needs in this lifetime. But let's do the best we can to help one another in the face of all that. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, and I'm just loving everything you're saying here. We got about 1 minute left before we go to our off-camera video break. I do want to kind of ask you this, because, and I guess we won't be able to. Okay, I guess you can give me a one-word answer. So, the government, they had Project Stargate, so remote viewing. So they understood at some level that we have more abilities than we are currently led to believe that we have. Do you think they are actively suppressing, knowing that we have all these extra abilities? A quick one-word answer, if you could. Do you think that they're suppressing abilities that they know that we have?
Oh, absolutely. And it starts from the minute we're born, the bombardment of everything to an infant and everything that we are exposed to on every level is the beginning of all that. Yes.
Okay, we're going to finish this conversation on the backside. On the top of the next hour, you guys don't go anywhere. Right here with Laura Eisenhower.
With Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, be back in just a minute, guys. right, everyone. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 2. As we are back with our guest, Laura Eisenhower. We're back from our YouTube break, and we have about 30 seconds before we come back from our radio break. Definitely want to thank all the super chatters so far tonight. You guys are awesome. Thanks for your support of Spaced Out Radio. That's Baba 200 times 2. So glad you had Laura on. Truth is, we know UFOs exist, we know aliens exist, but we do not know what agreements exist. And then maybe they don't want to let us know because they sold us out and we belong to someone else. Ooh, that's intriguing. All right, here we go.
I'm here.
All right, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. After hour number 2, we are back with our guest, Laura Eisenhower, giving us some awesome stuff tonight. Remember, you guys can follow us, not literally, but you can go on to social media, X and Instagram, at Spaced Out Radio, at Spaced Out Radio Show, and just give us a follow. Just click the button. We'd appreciate it. Goes a long way. Also, hit the like on this video tonight if you wouldn't mind, guys, as we jump right back into the conversation with Laura Eisenhower. So we're kind of going into, Laura, the the project Stargate and the remote viewing, and obviously government has to be aware that we have additional abilities that we haven't tapped into, but they make it part of the stigma, like psychic abilities, telepathy, remote viewing. I feel like if it hadn't been uncovered that they were running those sort of programs, it would be lumped right in with the UFO stigma and everything else. They just look at us like, no, that's crazy. You guys can't do that. What do you mean? You can't use telepathies? No such thing. But we find out that they have actual programs where they're doing exactly this sort of thing. So what do you think, this knowledge that they received the knowledge of our additional abilities by happenstance, or do you think that knowledge was passed down from extraterrestrials?
Well, we are the extraterrestrials. I mean, we came in with that. So we're targeted. Many before they even came in. And particular, bloodlines that have hybridization with certain races will target that family to use that body for that hybridized DNA to manifest their agenda through, while also using the advanced abilities of that soul. And that's why we see it being turned around by a lot of advanced individuals that call it out. So some, are kind of looping, or not looping, but stuck in that contract because of family members. Many come to break it, which is not easy. And some are like the star seeds that get captured. That was some of the Crowley rituals were all about that, actually.
Aleister Crowley. Okay. Yeah, we can get into all that. Now, have you ever remote viewed?
I am an astrologer. I've always been intuitive. I have not taken courses, right? I might naturally do it sometimes, but I don't do it as a practice. I feel into stuff, and sometimes I'm like, okay, I don't want to say anything. I just want to act upon it as best as I can, in the event that it might happen, right? But no, I'm not like a practicing remote viewer. And I wasn't in my lab programs. I was targeted. But I don't want to say I wasn't or I'm not, because I'm always open to be, corrected on that. But I definitely explored all of this as far as, what was my targeting have anything to do with that. But you were absolutely right. The remote viewing, the psychic abilities, telepathy, the whole use of time travel, like all of that. That's why it is looked down upon or just smeared, or you just not even accepted. And same even with astrology, considered a pseudoscience. So all of that is just knocked out of, but then they recruit people in that have those abilities. So you know, anybody that is openly talking about it, you know, is being, you know, shut up. It's the world we're in. While a lot of children are being taken to be used for those things. Yes. I just wanted to, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of that same thing. It's just, you know, that when I try to sit back and think if these governments, not just ours, but governments worldwide, if they have the people's best interest at heart, and then I think of things like this, in you know, I think of times where governments have put citizens directly in the way, like with the nuclear test, just expose all those soldiers to chemicals and radiation, and then the whole syphilis trials, and just all these different just things that they've done and tested on human beings, and then to turn it's sickening, exactly, and then to turn right around and you know, have evidence that they know that we have more abilities than we're led on to believe, and then just wanting to keep that secret. Like, why would you want to keep that secret? Okay, you can keep
harming and experimenting upon well-intentioned people in the military. Yes, all that. And just all the experimentation throughout humanity, you know, they don't want us to come together. There's 7 root races, 5 cloister races. There's been massive holocausts and genocides throughout history, and all these different, you know, eugenics projects and programs and everything under the sun to hijack these abilities to take them for themselves to engineer a artificial timeline, because they're vampiric. They can't create on their own.
Yeah, I mean, when you lay it out like that, and then you look at, I mean, you look at a government that smiles in your face. I'll speak for ours because that's the one that I deal with, and I know that they put a good face forward for us a lot of times. And you know, I know a lot of people in the government do have our best interests at heart. It's just the ones that pull the strings that are the ones that that give the total government a bad look. But it just kind of makes
there's a lot of well-intentioned individuals that, right, we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why I say sometimes things can come off as, oh, you're opposing the government, not really, just opposing the part of the government that doesn't have humanity's best interests at heart. And it's just that when I look at this, you know, when I question, you know, if we want to deal with something like this on the opposite side of the scope, disclosure. So once it happens, the moment happens, we're all made aware that we are more than we know, and we are introduced to these extraterrestrials on a global scale. Like, do we really want to carry the current model of government that we have into that new world? Or do we want to rethink it and kind of sit at the table and say, hey, let's kind of restructure this a little bit? Like, what would you
just said, the latter.
Exactly. And that's where I feel like we have to go. And that's why I tell people, I'm like, okay, I would like to have, there's the whole controlled disclosure versus catastrophic disclosure. I'm more of the catastrophic disclosure only because I know the definition for the government of controlled disclosure is slow drip for the next 200 years. You know, so they can figure out how to still keep power on the other side of a disclosure announcement. I want it to happen now. But the thing is that, you know, I know that the moment we have that realization and begin to go through that moment, that there's going to be a rough patch that we'll have to go through, because we will have to sit down at those tables and have those talks and try to restructure things. But the benefit is that for our descendants, grandchildren, great grandchildren, they'll benefit from us having to go through that rough patch, right?
Exactly.
So
you nailed it right there.
It's
the tough period is the wounds and injury of, you know, the children and the parents, and what the parents might have agreed to that impacted their children. Yes. What the children are awakening to, and what their parents aren't ready for, what their parents aren't ready for, that the children are awakened to. It doesn't matter the scenario. It's
Yeah.
all of that. It's the interpersonal of like how this has hurt us. Let's realize we've all been hurt. We've all been duped. We all are being hit from a different angle, all angles. It all is connected. Let's work together, right? For future generations. That's the uncomfortable conversation at the table.
Yes, yes, yes. So you are so right. And I just, I think evidence, because a lot of people look at the government as a machine, a system, but it's made up of individual human beings. And I always say there's always the chance that you have one of those human beings tap into their compassionate side and take this outlook of, okay, what world do I want my grandchildren, great grandchildren to inhabit? And do I stay on the side of the government and just, have war as the future, or do I do something on behalf of humanity where we can now make these changes? And then I point to whistleblowers like David Grush or Lou Elizondo, and just the fact that they come out and step and pretty much challenge the government by bringing out evidence like they do. I'm like, I hope I hope the compassion gets activated in more members of the government that are willing to step out on behalf of humanity and say what needs to be said.
Humanity needs to make sure that anybody in a leadership position isn't falling into the divide and conquer, isn't encouraging divide and conquer, that has like total compassion, that knows how hard it is to sort out everything that we are processing. Anybody who, is like, yeah, be angry at that person, or, oh, choose me, and, smearing somebody else is fine. That's not okay. We need to heal, right? So that would be for the humanity, the people listening, to hold them accountable to.
Yeah. And there's a term that you've used that I've heard you use, which is kind of common, but I want to know what and I'm pretty sure it may be essentially what we just talked about, but what do you mean when you talk about unplugging from the matrix?
I don't know if I say that term exactly. I mean, I know a lot of us say that, and I probably have said that.
Yeah.
It's like, when you pull the cord out and you plug into yourself, your heart, your soul, your mind, your free thinking ability, your creativity, your intent, the matrix and unplugging. What does it mean when you're plugged in, right? There's a communication, there's a exchange, there's a dependency bond. What it's showing you are reacting to. And if you unplug, you can, I don't know, sit with that a little bit and determine, are a lot of these emotions and feelings really, coming from what your soul needs to heal and process, or is it a trigger response to what you're being bombarded with? And how much is that draining you? How much are you believing in that? That's where you need to unplug.
Yeah. And it's obvious where the term comes from. It's from the Matrix, the movie, and the whole concept.
All right. Yes, of course. Right.
It comes from unplugging from what I feel like is this society, really. And I talk about this on this show before, so not just tonight, but I talk about how we're born into a system, which is it's decided for us the path that we take before birth. Like, we're born into this system. 5 years old, we're shoved into the system. Kindergarten, middle, or elementary, middle school, high school, college, job force, work from 20 till 65, 70, then rinse and repeat. And it's when you look at it, I did this math one time. I don't know if you've ever thought about this, Laura, but I'll say this again because it's so mind-blowing when you think about this. I asked someone, I said, if someone came to you, we're just going to use a number of 40 years of being in a workforce plugged into this machine. And if someone came to you at 18 years old, 20 years old, and said, okay, here's a check. We're going to give you a check for $2 million, but you have to work for me every day for the rest, for the next 40 years. Is that a deal that you would take on the face of it? And when I ask that, most people say no, because you feel like your
Yes,
worth is more than that.
exactly.
But when you do the math on that, that's working every day. That's based off a salary of like $50,000 a year
But like you said,
for
that's the
30 years.
indoctrination starting real young. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, you're
That's
fine.
the reward punishment system and what's passed down to the parents, what it means to be successful, getting the A at school, what college,
Yeah.
So, but that's not the true nature of humans. Neither is being racist. So,
Yes, totally right. And it's just so true. And it's so like when I said this to an older person, uh, that same thing I just said to you, and they were offended. They got offended, and it was because they had been brainwashed this whole time. And I said 10 words to them that immediately woke them up and realized what type of system they were in. They were so upset that they were taken advantage of like that. And it was like, yes, that's the reaction you're supposed to have, because it is a messed up situation that we're in, and we shouldn't want to pass this along to our descendants. And I say there's only really three things that could ever happen that could give us a chance to kind of change the direction of what we're doing. One of those things would be nuclear war, which no one wins in that. We probably go extinct. A asteroid impact from space, which once again, a huge population would probably be wiped out at that point. And then the third thing is extraterrestrial disclosure or contact, which is a moment we're actually in right now. And it's like, this is the thing we have to take advantage of and do it the right way. Because like you said, the grandchildren will look back on that and say, hey, they made the right choice, or hey, they made the wrong choice. Right. And it's like something that we have to live with. So that's why
they have to hold us accountable. Yes. And we need to listen to them and be that kind of community. And you're definitely leading just the charge on that. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I definitely, like I said, I feel you're doing the same thing. And that's what I try to promote on this show. I just really want to have conversations with those type of people who understand that the needle has to be moved, and we have to get to where we're going in order for some of this stuff to change. Now, you had some concepts that I saw that I really wanted to get into. I know you I've heard you talk about colonies on Mars, and I have some thoughts on that too. What can you go into that whole idea of colonies on Mars?
Well, I haven't been to Mars. I was targeted to go to Mars. That's connected to the alternative 3 scenario. That was something introduced to my great-grandfather's administration. I get into it in my book, but I refuse to go. So if there's more specific questions, it might be a little bit easier. But yeah, like Mars Defense Force, the USMC Special Section, Eisenhower helped to set up, because there were colonies on Mars that needed to be kept in check, that were literally looking to depopulate this Earth and create a new world order, and have some go off planet and some go into underground bases to survive. So this is part of me and Ike's collaboration to not stand for that, and be one of many to call out that particular agenda.
Yeah, so colonies on Mars would obviously hint towards a secret space program and being able to
Yes, and it makes sense to, protect the human genome. So it's not about negating that completely. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to.
Yeah, no. Yeah, we're doing fine. Okay. So what do you think the rovers are then? Do you think the rovers are actually there on Mars? Because obviously the images they send back is just desolate nothingness. What do you think?
Well, there's Mars is big, just like the Earth, right? So the rovers might be on parts of Mars, and there are underground cities that the secret space programs, through teleportation will deliver a person to, which aren't on the surface, right? So
yeah,
but they're looking to terraform. And it really depends, like, at what stage of the timeline you're visiting Mars to see, because Mars, the life was wiped out when Maldek exploded. It compromised Mars and, other planets like Venus.
Okay. Do you feel like we are going back to Mars, or that this colonization is our first time going to Mars? Because some people feel like we used to be there and we came here from there. What is your thought process on that?
There are refugees from Mars for sure. So yes, there will be recolonization projects, but it has to be not at the detriment of the surface population. We need to understand what's going on so we know what we're voting for. So humans aren't just treated like they're stupid. Like, we need to just have, more information so that we're not making decisions based in deception and lies. That's just not fair.
Yeah. Do you think, because obviously either one of us have been to this colony, but I would have to hope that, if there's another celestial body being, populations growing on a different body, that we are not taking the ways of life that we practice here on Earth there. Do you think they're under a whole different type of mindset as far as growing the population and how they approach living together in harmony?
Once trafficking and enslavement is being called out fully and completely, we won't see that on a intergalactic level. And those are the uncomfortable conversations you're talking about. Yeah. Slave trade, slave trade, on a galactic scale, on an earthly scale, on a underground base scale, and how that's all connected. Once that's being called out, then, there will be a lot of healing of the resources of natural habitats and planets. But when you see a vampirism of a planetary system and technologies being used, in that kind of way, then it just continues on, and these wars just find a new place to target innocence.
And I want to ask you this audience question because it actually ties right in the moment here. Paramorph's asking, when you mentioned teleportation in Mars, it sounds like you may be confirming the idea of jump rooms being used about the solar system. Is that the case?
Yeah, teleportation, yes, that's what I was referring to. And when we look at like innocence, we're also looking at amnesia and where people don't remember. So, there's a lot of innocents that are consenting to dark agendas that if they were to know the truth would not consent. So innocence has been very hijacked.
Yeah. I mean, it's a mess, right? It's a mess. If you, let me ask you this, maybe you have insight on this as a researcher, which out of all the species that are supposedly visiting us, and I hear there's a lot, which ones do you think are doing the actual abductions?
Well, it depends. I mean, it's important to listen to abductees. Some say they don't feel abducted anymore. Well, they can be mind wiped, and they can be, they can have false memory implants based in how they like recall their experience. It's not based in true memory. There's that. It's hard to just name a species because there's positive and negative within all species. I feel the guardians are the most benevolent that are with us. They're part of our higher self. There was a lot of non-intervention agreement. I mean, when I say a lot of, like throughout history, non-intervention, right? But some went rogue that wanted to play a positive role.
Okay, and we'll be back. We're going to put a button on that. We'll be back in just 5 minutes here right back on Spaced Out Radio. We're going to commercial. You guys don't go anywhere. We will be right back, I promise. Spaced Out Radio, After Hours Radio Show. All right. And guys, we are clear, and I'm looking here. I do have like one other question here. So once again, you get so into the conversation that maybe have missed some questions here. If I have, I just want to make sure that you guys get to ask those. So if you could put those in caps, and I'll be posing those on the back half of this hour. As we wait for our guest. Spotty internet, right? And I keep pointing this out, man. Spotty internet in 2024 and the ability, to keep live streams going and have so many issues, right? But we had a flawless transmission from the moon. I'm just not saying either way what happened or what didn't happen. I'm just saying 1969, which is almost 55 years ago, we had, and I keep saying flawless. People point out, no, it wasn't flawless. Okay, near flawless. A near flawless there. And then look at me, then I have a camera issue. Awesome that this happens on break. So let me go ahead and fix that, guys, before we come back. Back also. Wow. Okay, Laura. Looks like okay, she fell off again. Hopefully we can get her for the last 30 here. Close out this awesome conversation. If it happened to Laura and then right afterwards happened to me, I'm not saying it's conspiracy related. I'm not at all. I'm just saying what happened. I'll leave it up to you to determine if you think it's fishy or not. And I think maybe we have talked about some things that could be considered a little resonant. You could be right there. Okay. They're trying to get us, Laura. They're trying to knock us down.
That's funny. I know.
It is. Because look, you fell out, and then right after that, my camera goes offline, and I have to sit here and fix my camera. I'm like, back to back? But I'm not going to post the conspiracy.
Well, here we are.
Yes. Yeah, they can't stop us. They can't stop us. So we'll be back here in about 1 minute. And let's see.
Funny though, let me just add, both as far as rogue, both the good and bad side went rogue and intervened.
Yeah, something intervened because I thought we lost you, and I was like, oh my gosh, right when we got to the juicy stuff, and someone saying, I'll call the CIA, ask them to please stop messing with the show. Okay, Paramore, please
Funny.
do that.
Yeah.
Please.
Okay.
Okay, 15 seconds here. All right, everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 1.5. We're on the back half of the hour here. We got about 20-something minutes left with our guest, Laura Eisenhower. She's been awesome. And guys, please do this. If you missed any of this show, jump into our archives. They're absolutely free. YouTube.com/@SpacedOutRadio. We have a plethora of options, as Dave would say. All right, as we're back with Laura Eisenhower. So, Laura, I wanted to ask this, and we were talking about Mars. You know, I am under the theory that when we talk about like the Bible, for instance, the Bible says there was the ark and it brought over two of each. I'm under, I could look at that, I'll say, as maybe a metaphor for us coming from off world and coming and inhabiting the planet and bringing different species to this planet as well. I think that they're currently, if they were to dig on Mars, they may dig up what we know as human fossils. What do you think about that? I think you kind of went into that, but what do you think of the possibility of that?
Yes. Yeah. In the waters, all that, there were civilizations that were buried before all that. And then, the Mars factor. So there's way more to go on than what we hear about as far as that's concerned. The flood is covering up some of the slave races that were engineered and the Nephilim, and some survived, right? Doesn't make anything okay about the flood, but yeah, and the exploded Maldek and refugees from Mars, and what we might hear about in certain texts and books about our human origins, we're not getting the full picture. So, and there's a lot of different texts that are steered in the favor of certain beings and entities that are lower creator gods that are, yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Based off of that theory right there, right? It was because, the book is probably a metaphor. What do you think is the real thing that is the reason why the dinosaurs aren't here? Why do you think they went extinct? Do you think it was an asteroid impact, or some people say they think that extraterrestrials kind of cleared the planet of these creatures because obviously they're incompatible with smaller life forms? What do you think about that?
I think when Tara collapsed and we sunk into this lower harmonic universe was when the dinosaurs were wiped out. But don't hold me to that. I mean, so much is pointing to that as far as my research is concerned. And then the genetics taken from dinosaurs after that was buried. Okay. And then you find the bones, and we learn about that in high school, but we're not going to learn about the reptilian races, right?
Right. Somebody said, what if reptilians were descendants of dinosaurs? And it kind of blew my mind for a second, because I would just always think about, okay, how they fit into the fold, reptilians, but then somebody posed that as a possible idea. And I'm like, okay, that could be plausible, right? I guess something could have evolved. We know they were here for sure. And yeah, could something have evolved from that over millions and millions of years? Maybe, maybe.
Yeah, well, a whole new civilization, right? And it being so buried. Even when you go to certain national parks and sites, used to be lush, this or that, and they find dinosaur bones, but they know this deeper history. But that's the scientists, paleontologists that are looking at the geology, and things that are even our science books and what we learn in history class are going to tell us. It's interesting, right?
Yeah, and that's another thing, right? Because a lot of people, when we talk about this phenomena, everybody wants to lean on scientists for the answers. And, I always point out that science rewrites these books every 20 years. Like we had, when I was a kid, Pluto was a planet. Now it's not. They thought that the universe started by the Big Bang. Now they got the James Webb Telescope. Now they're thinking maybe it happened a little differently. So it's like, I think, when I look at science, I think it's more like an educated guess at best. I do appreciate science, and I think science is something that would need to continue and go forward, right? I think it's needed in trying to figure out the universe, but for the fact that they have to recalibrate and always come back and say, hey, we were wrong about this. This is actually this. I don't really lean my hat too much as far as trying to figure out the phenomena, right? Because I think a lot of the knowledge that we probably need to figure out that puzzle comes from like our native people that live here on this planet. I don't know how you feel about that, but definitely like to hear it.
Yep. And it's passed down, generation to generation. But it's also been buried and lost. So indigenous cultures and civilizations that have been lost to us, need to be rediscovered. And it's not going to come from shutting up our children and trusting the science, or having national parks be, overtaken by a certain scenario, or a book being rewritten. It's like we need to be advocates. The scientists, the teachers, the doctors, that calling, comes naturally to you. Don't go with the regurgitation. Go with what your soul calling is. And that's why when we travel, when we meet people from other cultures, when we go off and we go camping, I mean, that's where we really feel into what our soul is telling us. Then we can look at what we learned in school, and are the two lined up? Let's ask ourselves this. And what are the lost civilizations? What are the cultures that have been undermined, or not empowered, or you go to some places and they're selling the art of an indigenous group, and they're making a lot of money, but the treatment of the natives is horrendous.
Yes.
So that kind of thing. There needs to be a major cleanup, and the foster care and the all that, where children go if they're orphaned, or if all of that needs to be kept in check, because there's massive trafficking taking place, and it's an epidemic.
Yeah, you actually hit on something real great, because we had a guest last night on from the Santee Dakota Nation, and he's a Yuwipi man, and we actually kind of dived into that, and I actually had a map that I brought up that showed North America without all the state lines and international borders. It was just the indigenous map, with tribal boundaries, right? And it just, when you look at that map in that way, it gives you a feeling of the way that it should be, or the way it's supposed to be. And it's almost truthfully like maybe we have to go, and that's, when I say we had to go through a rough patch, I mean, maybe we have to almost break it back down to the basics. At the very least, I feel like we, even researchers, us as, and I consider myself getting into research, but I consider you an actual researcher. You've been doing this for years. But I kind of feel like, we should be at some point leaning on those cultures as far as getting input on some of the theories that we have, because I find that every time I talk to a person from a tribe, they always have, a perspective or insight that you wouldn't have normally thought of yourself, right? And it's because they have that direct connection with Earth and their historical past and the stories that have been handed down.
Yes.
All those different instances of encounters.
Yes, exactly. And that needs to be brought to our schools. Like that is like critical. All the missing children too at national parks, like the kidnappings, indigenous cultures and native lands are being massively targeted. And these are also the being lost to future generations as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because I was watching a tribesman from where was he at? He was somewhere in the Midwest, but he was saying exactly that a lot of their youth get absorbed into this society that we talked about, this fake society, this machine. They get sucked into that, and then they end up not being as connected with their elders, which in turn kind of breaks the chain of information, and that is a shame. It's just another example of what colonizing a native land has done, to the historical record. And I think that's really, I think the indigenous people are like the last hope as far as getting the most accurate historical message. We can read
look at
these
homogenized processed food and look at AI. That is exactly like the world we're facing. And sorry, and what you're saying is the antidote and what will save us.
Yeah. With that being said, I do want to do this because I know we were gonna have questions, but I didn't get any more in. Let me see. I did have this one here. I think it was more of a comment. Was Miss Captain Jones just saying, start teaching the kids at a young age to be independent of the matrix. And you're right, Miss Captain. That's like, a kid being awakened. And I always talk about the moment that comes when, hopefully within our lifetime, where we get to see a whole generation, a new generation of enlightened, people that have been awakened and be able to live their full life in that awakened state. How beautiful that picture would be, because most of us in the current way that it's set, being stuck in this system, we don't get our enlightenment till later on in life, where we finally noticed that we're in a system and we're in a matrix that we need to unplug from. Then we wake up and we figured it out. But there's going to be a generation of children coming soon down the line that are fully unlocked from the beginning, and that's going to be a beautiful thing. But with that being
they
said,
keep treating the symptoms of the loss of the roots, but they're not addressing the real issues. They're not even dealing with bullies in schools. They're not scratching the surface. So
yeah. And what we're going to do real quick, because I wanted to make sure that I got my guy in here before we wrapped up for the hour here, and it's none other than a mutual friend of ours, Mr. Drew Banky. Drew, I wanted you to join
Hey.
minutes here with Laura and myself. And yeah, man, did you have any questions to pose to add to the conversation tonight?
No, You know, me and Laura has known each other since 2019. We met at a conference in Mount Shasta, got snowed in, and yeah, and then we just kept showing up at conferences, and have cultivated a really good friendship over the years. And I really value her input and everything, and I always like to listen to her talk about everything. I always hear something new every time she talks. So
True.
yeah, but we, a few years ago, me and her and a few others were in a sweat lodge at Chief Golden Light Eagles Sundance Sweat Lodge on the reservation right before a conference. So her speaking on negative perspective and star knowledge and stuff like that, it's all intertwined, like I've said so many times. And yeah, you guys, after listening to her talk for 2 hours, you know why she's a good friend of mine.
Yeah, she's good people, man, and I love her. I love her insight. We're talking like she isn't sitting right here, but yeah, she's an awesome
What's
person.
going on, sister? How
Let
are
me
you?
speak to her directly. You are an awesome person, Laura. And I like like I was saying before, I like to bring people on that I think can have a conversation that will matter and that will resonate. Like I think this is cool live as we're doing it, but I think it's even more value that it's in the catalog for others to watch later. So it's like, they'll be able to dip into this and still connect with what it is that we were saying, regardless when they watch it, right? And so I appreciate you, Laura, for stepping in to be a part of this conversation. And
Oh,
thank you,
love
Drew,
you
for making it happen.
both.
Yeah, for sure. We didn't even get I didn't even hear much about she has extensive knowledge on the spirit of Mother Earth and his connection.
Oh,
It's
it all. I think I really feel it's
yeah.
You can just put that in the.
This could go on for hours. This
Right.
could go on
Oh,
for
you're
Yeah,
hours.
No, it's
see,
like
that's the thing. You don't cover
that's
everything in one
really incredible
show.
questions.
Yeah.
You save stuff for other shows.
Well,
That way
maybe
I
this is a
can ask her
teaser for
back.
the next one.
Yeah, I can ask her
Well, I
back.
want you guys on my show, and well, Drew, that invitation is always there, and just meeting you, man, I would love to have you, Mr. Rob G.
Thank you. I would be totally honored to do that. Yeah, let me know when. I'm totally into having these conversations. Everybody here knows that. And here's the thing, and I say this often as well within a community, sometimes in the UFO community, sometimes people just want to hear stories. They just want to hear, some spooky stuff, some, cryptid stuff. And, sometimes when it gets down to those consciousness conversations, the enlightenment conversations, and things like that, it's not normal. It's not flashy. It's not flashy and sort of conversation to have, right? But I think it is the type of conversation that moves the needle in the ones that have to be had, right? And if who's going to do it, right? So we got to do it. So we're doing it, right? That's what we're doing. We're doing it. Yeah, we're doing it. We're doing it.
Freaking doing it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Sorry,
Go ahead, Rob.
No, go ahead.
No, when I first met Laura in 2019 at that Avatars of the Earth gathering at Shasta, it was, I think it's around this time, September timeframe, and we had a freak snowstorm and got snowed in. And this is my first conference I got a speaking spot at, and just being in there, it was just what you're talking about. It's really humbling. It's like, okay, you're trying to share some earth shattering, what you feel is earth shattering information, and then to be snowed in and it got pretty hairy there for a while. I had a safe place to sleep and everything, but some people didn't, and it was kind of weird for some people. But it was just humbling. Trying to get the message out is hours and hours and lots of time, speaking and sharing. And Laura has put in a ton of time doing that. So
yeah, and she's still having connection. She dropped off. They don't want her speaking the truth. I've seen her talk in certain situations, and I wanted to keep us in a certain pocket tonight because I didn't want to when you talk about all the different subjects, then we have to It's tough to have the next conversation, but
Yeah.
here we go. Got Laura back in the building here. All right. Yeah. So with that being said, let me see. What is your prediction for this year, Laura? Where do you think? Do you think we have anything coming out disclosure wise? Anything that'll move the needle for us this year by the end of the year?
I feel it's like hunker down. Are the elections really going to happen? I mean, I don't think it's going to be what anybody expects. So is that a prediction? How about don't have expectations, expect yourself to shine forth. How can you best support yourself right now? Because there's no way to predict the rest.
I kind of like that. Actually. Yeah. Have you read Lou Elizondo's book?
Not completely, no, but I am familiar.
Okay. I just there's some things I know that are on the horizon, right? We have the Lou book, we have James Fox documentary coming out soon. I actually can't wait for that. We had Darcy Weir on here the other day, and Marcio, they have the Fast Movers Puerto Rico documentary about USOs that just came out. We have who else? Someone else I'm missing is coming out this year. I can't remember. However, there's some things to keep the conversation moving on the ufology topic, at least. And at least so.
Yeah, I should have, thought a little bit more into all that.
No, you gave a great comment. That was great.
Okay, cool.
That was great. No, I'm just pointing out the nuts and bolts stuff that we know is coming out just because, it's cool to see some, the promotional runs and the stuff being put on the national news and the global news. So our voices down here, unfortunately, well, your voice, I'm going to speak for mine. My voice isn't big enough yet to be, have that sort of impact. Although I did see Laura Eisenhower on an old episode with, oh gosh, what's the guy from the UK? Man, he got banned from YouTube recently.
David Icke or
no, the other guy, the guy with the accent.
Well, there's David Icke, UK.
Something X is his show, is his channel. You were there a while back. Gosh, it'll hit me once we're done here. Oh my God.
Can you think of it?
He was on TV a lot. He's on movies. I've seen him on movies. What's the guy's name? Oh my God.
To say they got an accent. I mean, it's kind of you're not narrowing down the field at all by saying they have an accent.
I know, dude.
I'm just saying.
I'm doing bad. I'm doing bad right now. Hold on. Let me see if I can find out before we leave tonight. Let me see. I just watched an episode of it. Oh, Russell Brand.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, Russell Brand.
Yeah,
so that's kind of big time there. Yeah, so I said I've seen you on some big time stuff. So you're able to get on those platforms to kind of have these conversations, which is pretty cool. But let everybody know where they can find you, Laura. Hopefully we get you back here as well sometime as well soon.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Drew, for helping to pull it together. CosmicGaia.org. Check it out. I do a subscription, which comes with Zoom calls, discounted sessions, check-ins, and the interviews I do. So CosmicGaia.org, everybody. Thank you.
Yes, you guys go right on over there and subscribe. It's been an awesome night. It's everything I thought it would be. I was anticipating the show. Like I said, I've seen Laura on other shows, but I wanted to see her here and have the conversation here at After Hours, and I thought it was awesome. I hope everybody out there agrees with the sentiment there and appreciates Laura for coming through. If you could show her some love in the chat and go on over to her channel and subscribe if you aren't already. Drew, I appreciate you coming in, man, and we're gonna be you're coming back in for hour 3 because we got to do the After Hours wrap up. But I just wanted to make sure that you chimed in and said hey to Laura after you got me that connection, man. So I'm always appreciative, bro. So
I love
it.
if I can do it, I'm here, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm down for the cause.
That's a team guy. Anyway, here we go. We're gonna get ready to go
Conversations that move
to hour
You're
3.
listening to
You guys
After
don't go
Hours
anywhere. Stay
Mr.
tuned.
Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, video break. See you guys in just a minute. Un momento. All right, everybody. Welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show, after hour number 3. As we get ready to come back from our radio break. Man, awesome conversation, man. I just knew it would be so awesome. Thanks for Laura Eisenhower for coming through and making it be just that. All right, here we go. All right, everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 3. We are in the home stretch here. We are bringing it home. We are going home, everybody. We got a great action-packed hour 3 for you. We got Steve Stockton, Missing Persons Mysteries. Then we got Drew Banky joining us again for the after hours wrap-up. And then we'll finish it up with a little UFO weird news, guys. Don't forget, you can access anything you missed, youtube.com/at Spaced Out Radio. Jump in the archives. We have a plethora of stuff for you to go through. And yeah, please give us a like on this as well, whether you're out there in radio land, show us your love, podcast land, or YouTube land. We would appreciate it. Let's go ahead and jump into some of the Steve Stockton Among the Missing.
Welcome to Tales Untold and Missing Persons Mysteries on Spaced Out Radio's After Hours. My name is Steve Stockton, and I'm here to take you on a journey of mysteries, legends, and true stories. Come, join me on this strange adventure of Tales Untold and Missing Person Mysteries. A young couple had a frightening experience while hiking on the Appalachian Trail in Virginia's southern region. During the night, while they were sleeping in their tent, they were suddenly awakened by odd noises and rustling sounds coming from outside their campsite. The young man ventured out to investigate and successfully frightened off some mysterious figures lurking about. It seemed the figures had wanted him to pursue them, but he chose not to. The couple then camped the next night with their backs against a cliff, guns at the ready. While the couple slept, the figures returned. Startled awake, the couple fired shots into the woods, and the figures quickly retreated. The pair hurriedly left the area, and by midday, they noticed a silhouette of someone standing in the distance watching them. Fortunately, they were able to leave the trail and reach civilization without any harm. The Legend of the Wampus Cat. The Wampus Cat, also known as the Cherokee Death Cat, is a large feline resembling a mountain lion or cougar. It is said to have tan yellow fur, 6 legs, and striking yellow eyes. According to legend, the creature's origin is rooted in a curse placed upon a Cherokee woman who witnessed a sacred pre-hunt ritual. She took refuge beneath the pelt of a large cat and was subsequently transformed into the half-woman, half-beast featured in this popular Appalachian myth. The Wampus Cat is said to roam the mountains alone and often expresses her frustration through angry behavior. She is known for standing on her hind legs and using her supernatural powers to drive her victims insane. Even though the Wampus Cat folktale features the Cherokee people, the name likely comes from the word catawampus, a mountain folklore that describes a boogeyman or something that had gone badly. In 1964, there were reports of a strange creature wandering around US 70. The newspaper dubbed it the Wampus Cat, and the name ended up sticking. And then there's the legend of Bigfoot. Now, legends of Bigfoot are ancient and have been passed down through generations. Stories of wild men in the woods are known by different names in different cultures. The Salish Sasquatch call it Sasquatch, while the Algonquin of the north central region refer to it as the Witico or Wendigo. Other nations tell tales of a creature similar to a man, but with special powers and characteristics. According to the Ojibwe of the northern plains, the beast would appear during times of danger, and other cultures believe that it was a warning messenger, encouraging people to alter their behavior. Starting in the late 1800s and continuing into the 1900s, North American settlers reported sightings of a mysterious creature. Huge footprints, sporadic encounters, and grainy photos and videos later only added to the mystery. The cryptid is said to stalk the woods, occasionally frightening campers, loggers, and hikers, with numerous accounts documented in the North Georgia mountains. Witnesses have described the creature as a giant upright ape or even a hairy human, standing over 8 feet tall and possessing a powerful, robust build. In the Berkshires of western Massachusetts, numerous sightings of Bigfoot have been reported, including along the Appalachian Trail, in Beartown State Forest, and the October Mountain State Forest. Presently, the debate and research continues. Entire organizations exist to study and document Bigfoot and prove its existence, and groups regularly search the Northwest woods looking for that ultimate proof. Today, individuals can commemorate this mythical monster of the Appalachian region by attending the Bigfoot Festival in Marion, North Carolina. And to round things out, how about some Appalachian superstitions? Many of these I heard from my grandma, but after speaking with her Tennessee-based family, author Amy Lewis comprised a list of these superstitions. The following are just 10 of her findings. Number 1, never close a knife you didn't open, or you'll have bad luck for 7 years. Number 2, keep a penny in your washer. Number 3, always go out the same door you came in. Number 4, eat black-eyed peas and collard greens with hog jaw on New Year's Day. Number 5, don't wash clothes on New Year's Day, or you'll wash a family member out. Number 6, don't let a pregnant woman see a dead person, or the baby will have a birthmark. Number 7, don't let anyone sweep under your feet. Number 8, hang a mirror by the door to protect against evil. Number 9, plant your crops under the full moon. And number 10, open the window when someone dies and cover all the mirrors so their soul can leave. In conclusion, the Appalachian Trail traverses through several remote and barren regions, such as mountains and dense forests, which can lead to eerie experiences for hikers. Superstitions and legends are an integral part of Appalachian culture. These myths and folk tales have been handed down through generations and showcased in hit TV shows like The X-Files and Mountain Monsters. The region's extensive history, which includes the amalgamation of European, African, and Native American cultures, has given rise to numerous urban legends, folk tales, and ghost stories throughout the area. In 1974, Joel Polson and Margaret McFadden started their AT hike up the southern terminus, Springer Mountain, Georgia. After covering 6 miles that day, the pair stopped to rest at Low Gap Shelter, where they encountered Ralph Howard Fox. After conversing for a few minutes, Margaret went to wash up in the stream, followed by Joel. The pair returned to the shelter, started a fire, and invited Fox to join them for dinner, but he declined. Then, without warning, Fox shot and killed Joel the following day, took his belongings, and kidnapped Margaret. After a few days, Fox let her go, and she notified authorities. Margaret later picked Fox out of a police lineup, and he was ultimately indicted for Joel's murder in October of 1975. Fox pleaded guilty and was sentenced to life in Georgia State Prison. This was the first known murder to occur on the Appalachian Trail. Then, in 1975, 22-year-old thru hiker Janice Balza from Madison, Wisconsin, stayed at the Vandeventer shelter on the AT in Butler, Tennessee. 51-year-old Paul Bigley, who had a history of mental illness, attacked and killed her with a hatchet as she sat near his campfire, allegedly for her backpack. Bigley was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison. Some hikers believe Janice's ghost still haunts the shelter. There have been sightings and also reports of growling and stomping noises in the area.
All right. That is Steve Stockton, Tales Untold, Missing Persons Mysteries. We always want to thank Steve Stockton for being a part of what we do here at the After Hours on the After Hours radio show. So shout out to Steve Stockton for that. And we're going to keep this thing moving. So, in hour 3, we do the After Hours wrap up. We had our guys, Drew Banky, step in at the end of hour 2 to join the conversation with the awesome Laura Eisenhower. Now we're going to have Drew Banky step right back in to do the wrap up. So Drew Banky, I got some music for you. Let me go ahead and cue the music. Let's go. that is creepy and spooky music as we welcome Drew Banky to the After Hours wrap up conversation where we kind of debrief and talk about what we gone over today in hours 1 and 2. And actually what we'll do is we're going to actually also debrief and wrap up on the conversation that we had yesterday. If you missed the conversation yesterday, we had Jim White with the Santee Dakota Nation. Awesome show, awesome guy. We had a great conversation, and it's another person that Drew Banky was an acquaintance of and lined me up with. He was like, dude, I think you have a great conversation with him. Let's go ahead and do it. I said, Drew, let's pull the trigger. Let's make it happen. And history was made last night. So if you missed that show, hop into the archive. That's where it's at, youtube.com/@spacedoutradio, and check out that episode. You'll see a pattern here. You'll see that we're definitely trying to move the needle here. And I wanted to get into talking to you about that, Drew, because Sundays is your night, so you didn't get a chance to come in and talk about it. But what did you think about the conversation that we had with Jim White?
It was amazing. Just echoed a lot of things I talked about over the years, and it's just having someone that has experienced Uwhippie, and I've only experienced Uwhippie 3 times, and this man is a Uwhippie man. To have him explain it, and he stepped into that realm so many times. It was just a really pleasure and honor to make that connection and bring him forward. He messaged me just a few days before I reached out to you, and he's like, I'm ready to do a radio interview. And I was like, okay, I'll set it up, and he's got a deep message. I didn't hear him mention it last night. I was in and out of the conversation. I was in between doing father mode and podcast mode, but I didn't hear him mention about he got the message from the spirits that this is time to start sharing with the people, and and a lot of us are getting that message. You call us wisdom carriers or whatever, are getting that message to now is the time to share all, without boundaries, without prejudice, and just to share knowledge, just raw knowledge. So and Laura, moving on to the night, Laura's just the same. She's a really good friend of mine, and just really honored to make that connection and bring her on here to share her story. Share her what her information. Everyone has a story. Everybody has nuggets in them through whether it be through their experiences or through ceremony or dreams. And that's what I think that's what this After Hours show is about, is trying to open up avenue to bring that to where people can share that with other people, and that's how we grow. That's how we evolve.
Agreed. Drew couldn't have said it better. Excuse me. And yeah, I definitely was looking forward to both, because I know that we've talked, and I remember I interviewed you for the first time some time back. It's been almost a year actually since we had the first interview. But since that first time, I was like, this is the person who's I can relate to your energy. I can feel the energy. I can see the good that you do for other people, and the selfless nature. And they say like people kind of attract each other, and so I know anybody that you're going to bring is going to be somebody that I'm already going to align with it. And I kind of anticipated being able to jump into the conversation. And we have our guy Travis Moose, who's with the Cree Nation. We always get his opinion and input on things, which is a valuable thing. And it was awesome to talk to almost an elder, right? A person who's who has a lot of experience as well, and kind of just getting that whole perspective, because it sounds like I'm beating a dead horse there, but I totally feel and truthfully within my heart that we all as human beings, when you ever do break up out of this societal structure and you kind of start seeing what's going on and understanding that there could be more to this and there should be more to this, that's kind of when you would be able to kind of lock in and key in on conversations like this. And like you
Yeah.
said, I think more and more people are finding that moment where they either awaken themselves, or they get to a point like Jim where he just has so much knowledge that he wants to share, or that he feels like he needs to share, because that's exactly what he said.
Mhm.
And then you have someone like Laura, who, everybody's been watching Laura for years, and they see the passion that she brings to the topics that she speaks about, and that she's an international speaker. So she's not only here in the States, she's going around the globe, trying to help enlighten and move the needle around the world. And I just
Yeah,
think that's awesome.
I can say about Laura, she's a real person. She's a real friend. We talk, she checks up on me, all the time, and back and forth. And I'm always trying to promote her wherever I'm at, or whoever I'm in contact with, and we always try to promote each other and everything. And it's just she's a real person, And
Yeah.
as far as James, swapping back and forth between the two, uh, we spoke after the show and before the show, last night, and definitely after the show and today. And he's really clear. I don't know if he made it clear enough, but he wants people to come out and experience these things. He wants people to come out and experience Sweat Lodge. He wants people to come out and experience these Uwhippie ceremonies and things like that. So he's he wants it's time for other people to experience the Uwhippie. Like, I can't stress enough how amazing an experience that is. It's really it's something that'll change the rest of your life. Just one
Yeah.
moment with it.
And here and we've talked, you and I, about going through some sort of ceremonies and things of that nature. And it's just I'm always looking for a way to you know open that door even more, as far as,
Mhm.
because I feel like I get the grasp, and I feel like there is a connection there, and I just want to see if there's a if the process opens me up even more. I mean, I'm almost frightened to see, but as we were talking with Laura tonight,
Yeah.
uh, I was telling her, and we kind of both agreed that once you start getting on that path where you are enlightened, and then you're trying to enlighten the rest of humanity, they don't like that. You know what I mean? And that's when they want to step in and quash the conversation. And I think, and that's why I asked her, do you run into issues with that? I would imagine that you do, because, there's never a moment where people in power want to see, everyone come together on the same message. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because it's too powerful. Imagine if everyone had the same enlightened state of mind, and how that would be. People wouldn't want to go along with a lot of the rules and things that are set in place. And I think that's what scares those in power. But the problem with that is that it has to happen. Like, there is no choice. It has to happen.
Yeah, for sure. There's a common thread, and I'm really glad that my life path, put me in this thread. But the Native American background, ceremonial background, there's a thread coming through of experiencers and people coming forth with these knowledge that's starting to, okay, that person was in a sweat lodge. Okay, that person, did this, that person did that. Like, there's a common thread that's starting to come about. Like, um, even the biggest names in the field of consciousness, you come to find out that mushroom experience or ketamine experience or ayahuasca experience in their background,
Yeah.
or time in India, time in meditation, things like that. There's a common thread that's coming through. That's, first it's trauma. A lot of it's trauma. A lot of us, trauma leads us to a ceremony for healing or whatever. We stumble onto spirituality, and can't shut up about the rest of our lives. And here I am.
You make a
And
great point. You make a great point. I was going to say, as far as those who are truthfully coming out, it seems like in numbers, saying that they've participated in some of these ceremonies. There have been people that I watch on YouTube, celebrities, superstars, that have come out and said, yeah, I've done DMT, I've done ayahuasca, I've done these things, and you would have never known. But I think they see and they understand that this is like a time right now where it's okay to admit that you've done those things. Yeah, because I guess there must, and I'm not in that world to know, but I'm assuming there was some sort of stigma on it where people didn't really want to admit that they participated in ceremonies like that. But you're getting a lot of people that I'm always shocked when I hear someone else come out and say, yeah, when I did the DMT ceremony, and when I tried ayahuasca, and I'm just like, wow, okay. And it's being more commonly done, and I guess they feel like from the statements that they make, like this thing is something that really opens them up. So I'm excited to take my trip down that lane, and see where it leads me. I can only imagine, dude, because I'm already inquisitive, and my mind is always going, and I'm always like this, and always. So I can just imagine where it would take me, man. You probably would know better than me. I'm just assuming that I know, but I'm always
don't know.
open for more enlightenment.
Yeah, I have no idea where it would take you. I just know that's generally speaking, it's going to be positive for the rest of it's going to make a positive impact on the rest of your life. How that looks and how it turns out and how it manifests, I couldn't tell you, but I can tell you wholeheartedly that I believe I wouldn't be doing it. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I didn't believe that it helped.
Yeah.
And I truly, absolutely believe that these things help in the long term. There's a lot of work. You have to do the work too. It's not a magic pill,
Right.
but like all things are. But you have to do the work on it. But if you match it, if you match its energy and do the work to integrate the whatever lessons it shows you in your space and integrate them into your life, and trust that it's for the best, it'll work out.
Here's one of the things that, and then getting back to kind of James or Jim rather,
He's fascinating dude. Fascinating dude.
just reconnecting with, because like I always say, I think natives are just so directly linked and tied to the energy of the earth. And when I think about it, I think about like going outside with your shoes off, right? And then that feeling of connecting directly with the planet, and kind of that whole feeling, and just as a metaphor really of like what you would be doing by kind of reconnecting with the native people, because they have all the true story. I mean, I'm not gonna say true, I'm sure there's metaphors in that too, but just all the stories that have genuine and true intent as far as the outcome, right? Like lessons in life and analogies for this or that, right? And I think that's what we're missing in our everyday life. That if we had that, and that's why I end up being envious of like a Travis Moose or a Jim, because they're connected in that they get that, have a chance to have a foot on both sides. So they have a foot in society and can see how messed up it is, but then they also can step that other foot back into reality and be grounded again. And I think that's what I want to be able to have as well. So, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get ready to jump into this break as we get ready to come back on Spaced Out Radio After Hours. On the back half of this hour will be the last 20 minutes of the show. We have the wrap up, which we will be completing momentarily, and then we're going to end it off with some UFO weird news. I only got to one story last night, but I got some more. Stay tuned. You guys don't go anywhere. Clear. And yeah, so this would be the perfect time, Drew, to talk about your upcoming.
Throw it up.
Go ahead.
Let's throw that video up.
Oh, you want to do that? Okay, I thought you were going to do your upcoming.
Oh man,
okay.
So yeah, my episodes with Ian Bick has its drop date. It's actually on YouTube right now. You can sign up to his members only. You can view the episode through YouTube, but the full drop will be next Sunday, the 15th at 7 p.m. Eastern time is the full drop on all platforms. And he messaged me today and said the edit comes out fire, and get ready because it's gonna be a really good episode. So I'm really excited about it.
That's gonna be awesome, man. Leveling up. That's always a beautiful thing. Okay, so I have this here. Oh, but I don't have it on Facebook, Drew. Let me see.
Let me send it to you.
Okay. Yeah, and as we wait for that, we're in a break anyways, but
so this is crazy. I went outside when Rob and Laura went down in the video and to use the restroom, and I looked out into the same area that I took the video almost a year ago to the day, September of 2023, during a podcast with a different podcast interview I was doing, and in that same area. And I just had this film that I just sent to Rob. You should be getting it. It's
all
going.
right, keep going.
Yeah, but yeah, amazing guests with Jim and Laura. They're just really good people, both of them, for sure.
All right, I think we got it here, and let's bring it up.
Yeah, we're waiting to come up. You guys want to hear something funny? I had LASIX, and as you notice, I'm wearing glasses now. I have to wear glasses for
that, dude. Just noticed that. Awesome.
Crazy.
It's a good look, man. All right, so we got this video playing. Something that you caught in the sky. Oh, got it. It's right here.
Yeah.
It's flickering like a reddish, whitish. Yeah. I just hate, that's the thing with videos at night. You just can't really, like, you're not getting what you saw with your naked eye, right? In the video.
No, because when I went outside to relieve myself, it flashed, and that's why I saw it. And then I come back inside, I got my phone, and then I saw you guys both were crashing out at that exact same time. So it's just really interesting, you know.
Okay, synchronicity. Oh, got it. Okay. Now, was this in one spot in the sky, or?
Yeah, as far as I seen, you know, I just took that one video and I come back in here. But the last time it happened, it went on for a long time, and you know, we shared that video before on here. But yeah, that's the same farm lights down there on the bottom. That's the multiple lights on the bottom, but the real focus is the light and this is the north face of Mount Blanco, and this literally happened during the show. So,
and how high above the peak is that, would you say?
It's not on the peak, so it's on the north. It's halfway down the north face. So,
okay.
It's probably maybe a couple thousand, maybe 1,000 feet.
That makes it even more interesting.
It's less than the peak of the mountain, so it's probably around 13,500 or 13,000 feet or so. And it's probably maybe 1,000 feet above ground level where it's at. It's on a slope of a mountain coming up.
Okay. That'll be interesting to keep an eye on that.
But that direction is Cheyenne Mountain. So Cheyenne Mountain is that direction. Colorado Springs, Cheyenne Mountain is that direction. So, yeah. So where we're at, we're right in between New Mexico. A lot of different, a lot of different bases to my south, west, and to my northeast is Cheyenne Mountain. So we have some interesting aircraft that fly over. All different types of aircraft and helicopters flying over our house all the time. So
awesome stuff. As we got about 15 seconds left here before we come back. You guys know we're breaking stories here all the time.
I've been dinged. Interview is amazing.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. After hour 2.5, we're on the back side of hour 3. We are on our way home right now. We're on the home stretch as we come back with the after hours wrap up with our guy Drew Banky stepping in the building. Remember, if you are on social media, guys, X and Instagram, at Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Radio Show. Don't forget to go over there, click, give us a follow. We'd appreciate it as we jump back into the conversation. So, I just wanted to make sure that we spoke about Jim, because I know you set that up and we didn't get a chance to speak to kind of debrief on that. But, Laura was our guest tonight, so more focusing on Laura. When going into an interview, I just really, looked forward, because for one thing, I've seen her on so many interviews. I've seen her interviewed by everyone. But the thing I always look forward to is bringing that person in for an after hours interview, because I just feel like the vibe is different. You know what I mean? I feel like, the intent is there by the interviewer to have the conversation go in a way that moves the needle, right? Instead of just having a checklist of questions and just asking general things. I had to ask about, President Eisenhower, because obviously she's the great-granddaughter, and that's just the elephant in the room. You have to ask about that. and truthfully, with that being said, it's, if that meeting happened, she says it didn't though, but if that meeting happened, it would be considered one of the most important moments in UFO history, and to be connected to even the thought of that, right? Whether it happened or didn't, to be directly connected to the idea that extraterrestrials interfaced with human beings in a meeting room with your great-grandfather is just mind-blowingly huge when it comes to this topic. What do you think about that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Her name alone raises eyebrows, anywhere, but it doesn't take you long to understand that Laura's her own person too.
Exactly.
She's her own person, she's her own avatar. And that's one of the qualities I love about her the most. And yeah, and she's just a real genuine person that speaks from the heart, and that's all you can ask for, and it's it is a real honor to make that connection, bring her to SOR. It's a great addition to the content, and she's one of those people that you can rebook over and over again, and she's going to come with something different each time, and really leave people with a hard time going to bed at night, after the interview. And she brings the fire.
He definitely does. Agreed. And speaking of bringing the fire, there's a lot more of that coming down the pipeline. I have Reed Summers' book, who I saw on a podcast, and I saw what he was speaking about. In his perspective, he focuses on the alien intent. And I love to have that conversation, because as Dave likes to say, he's on the the non-threat narrative, but I push the threat narrative, and I don't really push the threat narrative. I'm just saying that, it would be naive to sit back and just feel like these things are coming here for benevolence. Like, it would be naive to even only take that perspective. You know what I mean? So it's not me being a fear monger or harboring a threat narrative. All I'm saying is you should be prepared for a threat in case it were to happen. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because I think, what does that look like if this whole planet, if we all go along with the benevolent
Look,
story?
I'm team, I'm team good alien. That's my stance, because I believe that I believe that the lessons
You
of duality is a human lesson. I don't believe it's a lesson outside the 3D.
Drew. Oh, Drew. Oh man. You riding with Dave on this one. Okay, but here's the thing, right?
I'm just
I
riding with
can
my heart, bro.
agree. I can agree with that. And I want that to be the case. And I think maybe it's because I haven't dealt directly with the beings. But the thing is that even for someone who's dealt directly with the beings, for one, how do you know you're not being deceived? What checkpoints have you gone through to know, to just trust in what it is, that the information you're receiving from this particular species of beings? And then two, there's so many different species of beings out there. Who's to say that, yeah, the one that you dealt with was benevolent and that species is benevolent, but the other ones that are over there are not benevolent? Like, if you haven't dealt with the other ones, then how can you say that there isn't a threat narrative? I know the hope is there, and I'm a peaceful person, and I want, I've always pushed positivity and progression. So my first hope is, yes, I want them to be here to help us do all the things we talk about: ascend, get to this higher vibration, this higher frequency. I hope to, with all my heart, that is what this is all about. I really, really do. But I don't want to sit there on disclosure day and have put all my eggs in that basket and then not be in a position to protect my family when and if it hits the fan that no, there, it isn't benevolent. Because you're gonna have, if all the people that sit in the benevolent only category are not preparing for something that could happen. And what does that mean? That means when it hits the fan, then you're gonna have to lean on the ones who did prepare for the malevolent thing, and then you become a burden in the moment when you could actually have just been prepared. Because what does it hurt to be prepared, right? What does it
Right.
hurt to be prepared?
Yeah. I got two things.
Yes.
First, it's just a thought. Don't even respond, because it'd be too big of a response. But how are you gonna defend yourself against a highly advanced alien race? Two, this is a second thing, and this is, let's just play a what if game for a second. What if the essence of domination or hierarchy, or just imbalance, or anything at all, or white or black, good and evil, what if that essence didn't exist past the 3D existence, 4D, 5D, going into higher dimensional fields? What if that didn't exist? And what if the key to the gateway to a higher understanding or higher existence is letting go of those essences that are lower vibrational? What if? Just saying, what if?
I understand that.
And
I can
and then
go.
and then when we get to interstellar travel, that's not even in the thought process. And these things are said not only by me, but they're said by Dolores Cannon, quantum QHH, the founder of QHHT. A bunch of books out there, a bunch of books behind me on the bookshelf back here from her. And what she said, there's a lot of people talk about this. I've experienced it, and And that's just my viewpoint from my experience. I don't discredit any experience of people saying, okay, they've been abducted and had, horrible experiences happen. I don't discredit that. I'm just talking about my own personal viewpoint, and that's what I feel. If
Mhm.
you're at the point of interstellar travel, you have let go of lower vibrational essences that don't serve you moving forward, and that's my belief.
And I'll tell you what, all those ufology jargon and tag words, sound really good. But here's the thing: I think we can all agree that we don't have the answers. I think we can all agree
True.
that we don't know what's going on. So if we can agree that we don't have the answers, and we can agree that we don't know what's going on, then the only smart thing to do would be to hope for the best, prepare for the worst, just in case, right? You don't know if you're going to travel somewhere, you didn't check the weather. It should be sunny, but maybe it gets cold at night. You're going to bring a coat just in case when you go out at night. It tends to be cold there at night, even though it's hot in the day. It's just preparing, it's just hoping for the best, preparing for the worst, which isn't pushing benevolent or malevolent theory. It's just saying, hey, why not be prepared for both? Just why not?
9 times out of 10, I will forget a hoodie and have to buy one at the location where I'm at. So I'm just saying, I
Yeah,
might be on a different.
that's funny.
I might be on a different wavelength.
Funny guy. Funny stuff. But yeah, I mean, this is stuff to get you thinking. We'll be talking about
Yeah.
this more because, like I say, we have the guest Reed Summers coming in, and he has a lot of great theories on this and perspectives. So I can't wait for that conversation. I think it's on the 21st. In the meantime, we got Wild Trees, the microbiologist I spoke to like months ago. He's really smart, awesome guy. He's coming in, and a lot of good shows coming up. So I really can't wait. Drew, we're going to go ahead and cut it right here so we can get into the UFO weird news, man. I thank you for coming in and making all the connections. Dude, you got my back, and I love it, man. And we're going to keep doing what we do. I'll be talking to you offline, sir. Thanks for coming in.
All right, night, everyone. Thanks for having me on again, Rob.
You know it, Drew. Appreciate you, man. Take care.
All right, brother.
All right, later. All right, guys. Drew Banky, our hour 3 guy, man. That's how we do it, right? That's how we do it, right? There's a feeling here at this show, right? That's all I'll say, man. We just want to move the needle. With that being said, let's go ahead and get ready to jump into our next segment of the night because we only have a few minutes with you guys left. Let's go ahead and get into some of this news.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
All right, UFO and weird news of the week, right here on the Spaced Out Radio After Hours radio show. We got into a weird one last night, right? We had the couple that were getting randy beside the water, and the Range Rover went into the water. Crazy situation. We're going to get into a few more that I had tagged we couldn't get to. So the first one we're going to start out with is and these stories come from England, so some of the wording is going to be relegated to that region of the world. But mom unexpectedly gave birth while camping after she thought it was something completely different. Zoe Doyle, 38, has told how her husband Stuart sprang into action while she, quote, felt like Mother Mary giving birth outdoors. Now, next time you're questioning whether you have overpacked while you're loading up the car for a camping trip, just know that it's best to prepare every eventuality in the wilderness. As you never know, you could get caught by surprise. I just was saying this, right? You could get caught by surprise and end up giving birth in a tent without having any inkling you were even pregnant, like this woman did. Zoe Doyle, 38, headed on to the campsite in Hayling Island, Hampshire, with 2 children and ended up walking away with 3. So, yeah, maybe that extra packet of wet wipes will come in handy after all. The mom ended up welcoming her baby girl in the early hours of the morning with the help of her husband, Stuart, after initially presuming it was a dodgy chicken curry she had eaten, which caused her excruciating stomach pains. The couple from Maidenhead, Berkshire, had traveled over an hour away from their home for a week-long camping trip with their 2 kids when all the chaos unfolded. The nursery practitioner explained that a few days into her break in the great outdoors, she was woken up at 5 a.m. one morning with severe pains in her stomach. But as she tucked into a takeaway the night before, she simply thought that her cramps were a result of the meal not agreeing with her. At this point, Zoe still had no idea she was pregnant and she'd had no symptoms. However, due to the agony she was in, she began to fear that she may be suffering a miscarriage and decided to wake her husband up. The mom explained, I woke up and I thought that chicken we had the night before was really upsetting my stomach. I couldn't get to the main toilets, and we have a little portaloo toilet in the tent. I just stayed there. I thought it was funny. I thought it was just tummy pains, but it kept getting worse and worse. I knew something wasn't right. There was so much blood. I thought I was having a miscarriage. Little did I know I was doing all the contractions on my own in the portaloo. Zoe recalled how she then felt the overwhelming urge to push while her husband Stuart decided to investigate further. I leaned on all fours and my husband saw a head, the mom said. He had to help deliver her in the tent and cut her umbilical cord in the tent and wrap her up with what we had. I did it all on my own. I felt like Mother Mary giving birth outdoors. It was just so bizarre. She literally came out, and I remember thinking, what has just happened? I was thinking, how did I not know? Everything I shouldn't have done, I did. The pair rushed to the hospital with their unexpected new addition, where doctors confirmed she was healthy despite her mother having no idea she was even pregnant. Adorably, Zoe and Stuart decided to pay homage to the spot she was born in, Hayling Island, and so they named their 8-pound, 14-ounce tot Haley Doyle. Although they were absolutely buzzing to complete their family, the couple were obviously baffled that Zoe had been pregnant for 9 months without her realizing. I had absolutely no symptoms, she said. My period was light, but I just put it to stress and I still had them every month. I had no cravings or anything. I gained a bit of weight, but I just put it down to having a few more snacks in the evening, Zoe continued. I didn't have a noticeable bump and no one mentioned anything. There was no morning sickness, no nausea. There was nothing. It really was a hidden pregnancy. Zoe had even been on holiday on Turkey in June. She had no idea she was with child. She explained that her and Stuart had always wanted to have another kid, but had later decided against it after doctors warned her husband diabetes may impact their chances to conceive. The mom added, so when she came, I thought, how on earth is she here? She fought against all the odds to be here. I was on and off the pill, but because we were told our odds of getting pregnant were unlikely, we didn't think much of it at all. She was as much a massive surprise. She'll have the most amazing story to tell when she's older. I never used to believe cryptic pregnancy stories when I read about them until it happened to me. She just fits in perfectly, like it was all meant to happen. Zoe said medics informed her that they reckoned she carried little Haley high up, hence why she didn't feel her move. Either way, the Doyles aren't going to be forgetting this camping trip. That's for sure. That's awesome. I've heard of, named pregnancies where a woman may not have realized that she was pregnant and just didn't know until the moment she was giving birth. So I thought that was pretty insane. One of the weird stories of the night tonight, as we have about 3 minutes. Let me see if we can get this one in here. Let's try this one here. We got friends that vanished while on hike, left disturbing photo on their phone beforehand. and we'll try to rush through this one here. A decade ago, friends Chris Kremers and Lisa Froon vanished while on a hike in Panama's El Pianos Trail. They went missing on the 1st of April, 2014. It was several months before body parts were found. Kremers, 21, and Froon, 22, had been planning for the hike for months and are believed to have traveled through a forested area near the Baru volcano near Bulkhead, Panama. However, they were never seen alive again, and despite an extensive search being launched, it wasn't until June that more clues were uncovered. The phone showed that about 6 hours into the hike, both phones had been used to try to call the emergency services, but a lack of signal meant the calls never got through. The women had dialed 911, an international emergency number, 911's Panama National Emergency Number. Further investigation found that Froon's phone, a Samsung Galaxy S3, ran out of battery on the 4th of April, was not used again, while Kremer's iPhone 4, was turned on and on time, off and on at times between April 5th and April 11th, but the correct PIN code was never entered. The discovery of Froon's backpack resulted in fresh searches near where it had been found, and denim shorts belonging to Kremer have been found on top of a rock opposite the Bank River, a few kilometers down from where the backpack had been found. 2 months later, a pelvis and a boot with a foot inside were found, and testing confirmed that the remains belonged to the two women. All right. That is going to be it for our UFO weird stories, as we are too short on time to get through the rest. Do appreciate everyone who has come through tonight. I definitely just want to extend my thanks once again to our guest, Laura Eisenhower, bringing just enlightening conversation. I always feel like some satisfaction within myself when we have a conversation like that. It's like food for thought. It's like I feed off that energy, right? And I really feel content right now with what we did. Let me go ahead and thank the super chatters for the night. We had Baba 200 saying, so glad you had Laura on. The truth is, we know UFOs exist. We know aliens exist, but we do not know what agreements exist. That is so true. And maybe one day we will. Baba 200 again. Maybe they don't want to let us know because they sold us out and we belong to someone else. Yeah, that is deep. We got Ann Joanne with the super sticker. We do appreciate that. And then we had Aloha Dave chiming in. We love Aloha Dave. Both shows this weekend were quite amazing. Yeah, do appreciate all your love and support. Couldn't do it without you guys, right? You guys are the main reason why the show goes. And as long as we can keep bringing you the content that you like, then that's what we'll do. Make sure you guys hit the like button on the way out the door, and hit the subscribe if you're new. We would appreciate that. Now, we also want to we thanked our guest contributors. Now we also want to thank this guy that you hear right here, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Tall, the man who rocks us out each and every weekend, because he reminds us to never say never again. Because, as Baba 200 said, yes, the phenomenon is real, and anything and everything is possible. So make sure you show your love for the show tonight and for Spaced Out Radio. Put your horns up. Also, we want to thank our viewers online and listeners on terrestrial radio and digital platforms when and wherever in the world you may be listening from. We appreciate you for tuning your frequency to Spaced Out Radio, where we do what we do best and continue to do, and that's owning the night. Remember, this show is copyrighted Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. It's been a pleasure serving you once again as your host. I'm Mr. Rob G, and this is the After Hours Radio Show. And to all you space travelers out there, it's not a goodbye nor a farewell. However, as we go off air tonight, just remember, we will see you next time. Much love. Take care. Let's go. that's a wrap, guys. Thanks so much for coming in. Appreciate your support out there in Twitter land as well. If you wouldn't mind hitting that little heart button right below the screen. If you're on Twitch, I don't know what you hit over there, but please hit some sort of like thing over there. And then right here on YouTube, let's get to 100 at least tonight, guys. Let's do that. Outside of that, it's been a pleasure. I will see you guys next weekend. Make sure you're here for Dave Scott tomorrow. Have a great rest of your night, guys. Take care and rock on out to the outro. See you next time.
Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.